You'll hear, as just introduced, from two of my colleagues today. We'll have Debashish Majumdar and Prem Taraj, and my name is Christoph Göttinger. And during today's call, we will talk about how to get started with creating supply chain visibility, and particularly the role a supplier network can play in this context. We'll give you 5 reasons on why you might want to consider participating in a supplier network. We'll show you what this actually looks like, because seeing is believing. We'll hear from one of our local suppliers, local to India, and who is participating in the network. And we'll talk about some free resources which SAP have made available in response to the recent COVID-19 events. So let's get started. As I said, first up, I wanted to briefly highlight 2 free resources that we've made available, well, free of charge to everyone, which are specific to helping organizations address procurement and supply chain challenges. The first one is to address the challenge of finding new sources of supply. And for this, we have opened up SAP Ariba Discovery. This is a platform where buyers can post any demand and suppliers can respond accordingly. This is currently completely free, and we have already seen a number of great success stories across the world. We've had company finding suppliers for face masks, which are quite critical. We've had companies who were able to find hospital beds to build a temporary hospital. So quite a lot of critical demand has been posted. We've seen a tremendous sort of uptick, and a lot of our customers and non-customers have taken advantage of this offering. On the other side, we have another offering, which is the Qualtrics supply chain continuity parts. For those organizations who want to quickly get a health check on their supply base, so understanding what's actually going on with your suppliers, you can use this pre-built survey. It's, again, also completely free of charge. It comes with a Qualtrics free account, so all you need to do is sign up with your email address, and you have access to that pre-built survey, as well as to a couple of other surveys that you can use, one with your external customers or even with your colleagues internal in the business, but of course in this specific context related to your supply base. It's pretty straightforward, and we'd invite you and encourage you to use it. For both resources, if you would like any help, we will share some contact details at the end who you can reach out to for some completely individual but also no strings attached support. Now let me change gears and let's talk about supply chain visibility and supplier networks. In 2018, some research showed that 50% of companies have experienced a supply chain disruption event. That's quite a lot, right? That's every second organization that was queried. At the same time, supplier networks have been around for about 20 years. That's about the same number of years that Google has been around. And while a majority of the Fortune 500 companies are using supplier networks to run their trading partner collaboration, the general adoption of networks is still lagging behind but only 79% of companies having actually not really started going beyond the pilot. So there's definitely massive amount of room for improvement. And I guess at the same time, the question we need to ask, well, why is this actually important? And I think what we're seeing across the board is that average supply chain disruption costs are actually quite expensive, right? They range on average to $1 million per event. And I think the real question that a lot of people in the industry, as well as peers and organizations and supply chain and procurement leaders are asking is, what is actually the percentage of companies that will have experienced a supply chain disruption event in 2020? And while we don't have like a fully scientific answers, we'd like to thank a lot of you who have participated in our pre-webinar survey. This survey is still going on, and so we're not quite finished. So it's preliminary results, but at least we're trying to take a stab of what organizations out there actually experiencing. And so I'm going to briefly share some preliminary results. With the results, we've seen that 86% of the respondents have said we have experienced a very recent supply chain disruption related to COVID-19, where our suppliers have been unable to fulfill their supply promises, right? 86%, I find that's a rather large number. In addition to that, 66% of respondents have said to us, we've experienced increased demand on our accounts payable function. A lot of accounts payable function these days are get inundated with payment requests, with questions for early payments, because of course suppliers now need the cash and flow for their organizations and for their working capital even more so than ever. And so there's increased demand on accounts payable functions that have quite has an impact on the operations. And limited visibility and lack of alternate resources were the top two reasons mentioned by 77% of respondents, hindering their ability to respond to supply chain disruption events. So quite interesting. And I guess in that context, before we talk about networks, I think the current conundrum that we're all facing is, and what is really sort of the status quo for a lot of organizations, is still the majority is communicating with suppliers via a very decentralized fashion. The other part is you find very many multiple legacy systems and a lot of different processes, right? Very little standardization. Email, phone, and Microsoft Office tools are sort of the predominant tools that organizations are using to communicate and exchange information with their supply chain. And it's very often very, very people-based. So this is where we have repeatedly seen that a single supplier network used to collaborate with the entire supplier base across both direct and indirect categories can make a massive business. Supplier networks have come a very long way with, for example, the SAP Digital Supplier Network, also known as the Ariba Network. We now have about 4 million participating companies, right? And out of that's globally, and out of those 4 million, 500,000 alone are actually specific and local to India. And that's facilitating globally about $3 trillion of commerce. That's 9 times the gross merchandise volume of Amazon. And what's more important, supplier networks have also become significantly more accessible, specifically to small and medium-sized businesses. Now, let me hand this over now to my colleague, Debashish, who will give you 5 reasons on why you may want to consider participating on a supplier network. Debashish, over to you.
Thank you, Christoph. SAP Digital Supplier Network with SAP backend brings 5 distinctive benefits for our customers. First benefit is your supply chain gets smarter. When all your transactions, communications, and critical collaborations happen on a single platform, all your data is at one place. You can standardize the process from sourcing to delivery collaboration to payment. You can collaborate with your trading partners on real time with higher automation level, which reduces workload on your purchasing department significantly by eliminating some of the manual activities completely. Since all supplier facing activities are done by the suppliers only once and gets replicated in your backend system automatically. This makes your process paperless, lean, and more sustainable. Entire collaboration can be done remotely, working from home, cutting significant operational cost. We have seen an average 60% reduction of operational cost for our customers. Second aspect is your supply chain gets more resilient. While you are easily managing this interaction, you can ensure supply continuity by going for alternative sources well ahead of your procurement cycle, by getting a single clear view into your order confirmation, delivery and shipment status with courier tracking number and potential delays. Importance of supply chain resilience is nothing new, but current situation is great reminder for the same. Real-time interaction and visibility of order status, delays, disruption really helps to become more agile and resilient. Thirdly, trading partner gets more value by your success of your depends success of your trading partners because all are linked. No one likes manual disconnected process, and that is true for all your trading partners as well. They like even less the feeling that they are not really valued, but that's exactly what they get if you give them bad data complex process, or inferior experience. In return, they will deprioritize you, resulting into higher price or longer lead time. Collaborating via network with unlimited suppliers, however, proves how much you value them because it makes their lives easier too. They can build a stronger relationship with you while gaining greater control over their cash. Moreover, they can be connected to all their customers on the same platform, interact with them seamlessly, and gain centralized visibility. This answers most important questions every supplier asks. Do I have a new order? That means more money. Did the customer receives my goods or service? That indicates the time to raise the invoice. What is the status of my invoice? Approved or rejected? So that they can take appropriate actions. When will I be paid? Helping planning their cash flow. Do I have any leads to respond to? Means new business opportunities. Fourth benefit is things get little easier for your IT department. Customized solution for collaborating the suppliers means added complexity for your IT team. They have to manage it after all. Eliminating all those custom solutions leveraged IT from managing changes or dealing with service issues. And remember, every time a supplier has a problem or forgets a password, IT has to fix it. In a network world, however, suppliers are supported throughout and without your IT team. One critical aspect is integration between your supply facing solution and backend application. Integration among disparate systems technologies is a major challenge organizations face during implementation. Huge cost, time, effort goes into integration. It is a never-ending exercise and actually becomes more and more unmanageable as time passes. That is the reason SAP has built extensive native integration in the tune of 224 plus integration points across the entire source to pay process. Being cloud solution and also take away many complexities related to implementation and maintenance. Implementation is quick, simple, and can be done remotely. It doesn't demand huge capital investment upfront and getting organizations locked in. And more importantly, doesn't need major change management as such. Lastly, it is win-win happens more often among business partners. The closer you collaborate with your trading partners, the easier it is to identify and take advantage of mutual beneficial opportunities in terms of leveraging payment terms, optimizing working capital, reduction of invoicing errors, and managing disputes. Network brings consistency to process, pricing, and transactions, and you all need only to see more control. Your suppliers can cut the cost and complexities out of serving you. We have seen 3 to 4% efficiency gain in many of our customer scenario. Standalone ERP like S4 HANA without network connection is similar to a sophisticated iPhone without SIM card. Your entire digital transformation is at a stake since you are still keeping the old bottleneck of manual activities outside the system, delayed data entry, and huge duplication of mundane work. System like S4HANA with huge data processing capability is data hungry and needs real-time data flow to create real-time insights for your business user. Unless IT team establishes this connection, you are not really leveraging the full potential of S4HANA. Digitization of entire value chain with real-time information exchange is a win-win for all the parties involved. Now let's see how it actually looks into the system. I will hand over to Prem for a quick demonstration. Pooja, can you run?
hold tight, we'll get this going. Apologies for the slight delay.
Hello, my name is Prem and I would like to welcome you to the demo about Digital Supplier Network, known as DSN. The slide I am showing to you represents documents that can be exchanged over Supplier Portal between a buyer and supplier. By a buyer, I would mean a customer who has SAP ECC or S4HANA ERP system connected to the supplier network. Our demo will start from signaling a demand on a buyer side by creating a purchase order in SAP system. Next, supplier will review the PO and confirm to the buyer that he is able to process the purchase order by sending a PO confirmation. When supplier will be about to ship the goods to the buyer, he will create an advance shipping notice and send it over. Buyer will review both documents and receive the goods in SAP. This will automatically notify our supplier that he is good to submit an invoice. Supplier will then proceed to create an invoice against the PO, and accounts payable in SAP will review and take an action on it. Depending on the action taken, supplier will be notified about the status of his invoice. Alright, let's jump into the demo. Our demonstration begins from us acting as a buyer in SAP ERP system. I mentioned before that our supplier portal solution is a natural extension of S4 or ECC system. In my demonstration, I'm using S4HANA with Fiori interface, but a very similar experience you can get in older ECC system without Fiori. Collaboration between a buyer and supplier usually starts from the purchase order. To quickly create a PO, I will just search for an existing one and create a copy of it. We will do that by tapping on Manage Purchase Orders, typing in the PO that I created before, selecting it and just pressing the copy button. I'm gonna simply just order the PO. Okay, let's stop here for a second. Purchase order tells the supplier what do we need from him. It can be a material or a service. In case of a material order, we would order from our supplier finished goods, raw materials needed for manufacturing, stock items, or simply goods related to our day-to-day business activities. Through Supplier Portal, we can also order a service related to plant maintenance like cleanings or repairs. We can order professional services related to consulting or any type of services. For domestic purchase order in India, we would also include taxes on the purchase order, so supplier can see it and have the same taxes on the invoice. And this is supported in our Supplier Portal solution. Let's take a look at the line item of our PO to see what am I ordering from my supplier. So, we will be ordering an iPhone product today. This is the value of our item, pretty cheap for an iPhone, but it is because our buyer has negotiated a very nice discount. This is our quantity. Delivery address details are located in here. Our supplier needs to ship this iPhone to Mumbai. Lastly, let's take a look at the purchase order number that supplier will see and use as a reference while collaborating with us. So how does the supplier receive the purchase order? Well, he can do it in many different ways. He can receive an email with the purchase order. He can use his browser to log in to his account, or he can use a mobile app, which is what we will check out first. As you probably noticed, I'm using a mobile device for this presentation. SAP has created and revamped a free of charge mobile app for all suppliers. This app is available for both Android and iOS smartphones or just mobile devices. And how it looks like? Well, let's check it out. The very first screen our supplier would see is his dashboard. The dashboard provides information to the supplier related to his collaboration with buyers. In order for supplier to know what is the current state of collaboration with his buyer, app provides him with different tiles outlining number of documents. We see how many new orders supplier has received, how many orders require his attention. This number represents change orders that buyer has made to the original PO. The app also contains information related to invoices. How many invoices that were submitted by a supplier is awaiting approval from accounts payable. How many invoices will not be paid and got rejected by accounts payable. And what is the number of invoices pending for payment. The dashboard is generating some reports to the supplier about his activity related to his orders and invoices. Lastly, supplier can respond to the RFPs or quotation requests for free from his app as part of SAP Ariba Discovery solution that was made free of charge to help supply chain with COVID disruptions. Let me switch to a different view where supplier instead of a carousel sees all the tiles at once. And let's check as a supplier the purchase order that was sent by a buyer from SAP system. So we received the purchase order. It has the same number that we have seen in a SAP system. Let's open it up by tapping on it. I have only one line item. The line item has the same unit price as we have seen in the SAP system. Same thing with the quantity. If supplier wants to know more about the order, he can tap on the line item and he will see information related to what type of the order is it material or a service, what is the part number of the item, by when does the buyer need the item, what is the address where he needs to ship it to. As you can see, it is exactly the same information as we had in SAP. After checking all the details related to the order, supplier would like to notify his buyer that he is able to process the order. He can do it by creating an order confirmation document. This document requires supplier to notify buyer about estimated shipping date and estimated delivery date. Once supplier clicks submit button, the document is sent immediately to ERP for buyer to see. When supplier is about to ship the order, he will issue advance ship notice to his buyer to notify him that the delivery is on his way. Supplier can do that by using his browser and tapping this button and viewing the web version. From his browser, supplier can see more details related to the purchase order. He has 3 action buttons available to him. As you can see, create invoice button is grayed out. We will explain this a little bit later. Right now, supplier will go ahead with ship notice creation. The portal will ask supplier to provide certain pieces of information such as packing slip ID, the actual shipping dates and delivery dates, carrier name with the tracking number. Suppliers in India very often would provide attachments with the ship notice. So for this advanced ship notice, we're gonna attach delivery note. And secondly, we're gonna attach a packing slip as well. Both of these are scans of these documents. Lastly, on the line item level, supplier would input the batch ID information so buyers could have access to it in SAP. Once all of this is complete, supplier just clicks on the next button and he sees the summary of the document. After clicking on submit button, advanced ship notice is sent to the SAP and it creates inbound delivery document in SAP. The document contains all the information that you have seen on the previous screen, and it also allows buyer to proceed with goods movement posting. Let's take a look how it looks like in SAP. So let's quickly go back to our Fiori interface. Let's go to the home page of our dashboard for the buyer. Let's tap on Manage Purchase Order and let's quickly search for the purchase order that supplier was working on. You have it here. Let me just open it up. And let's go to the details of a line item. Once I will go to the section of supplier confirmations, in ECC that will be just confirmations tab, I will be able to see both documents that supplier has created. Notification about the fact that order is going to be processed is available here as confirmation. This document contains delivery dates that supplier has provided. It is available for reporting, which helps buyer's company to evaluate the performance of the supplier. How often supplier is rejecting the orders, how often supplier is in line with delivery dates he's forecasting to us. All of that is available in SAP system for reporting purposes. Second document that buyer can see in here is advanced shipping document, which in ERP is represented as inbound delivery. We are able to see the batch ID that supplier provided to us, actual delivery date from the shipping notice, and all of that is available to us in a digital form, making our supply chain visibility much better. Inbound delivery document allows the buyer to proceed with goods entry. Does it matter for supplier if a buyer will perform goods entry? Yes, it does. You probably remember Create Invoice button was grayed out for supplier. Without goods receipt, supplier will not be able to submit an invoice to your company. This feature is just an example of many that allows you to better control how your supplier is invoicing you and when. So let's very quickly post goods movement in SAP so supplier could start the invoicing process. I will quickly search for our purchase order, select it and go to the goods movement. Right now I have to select a line item and click on post. After goods entry is posted in SAP, supplier gets notified about this and is allowed to do the invoicing. This feature allows your company to control amount of invoices received too soon without any goods entry. Let's go back to the supplier's mobile app. Let's find the purchase order that the buyer just received. There you go. We can see that the status has changed from shipped to received. We can also see all the documents so far exchanged in correspondence to this purchase order. We see order confirmation, advanced ship notice, receipt notice. We also see the history of the purchase order. What has happened, which document was sent when. This provides a lot of visibility, and if supplier or a buyer needs to track things down, the history is always there. Last thing for supplier to do is to send the invoice for shipped and delivered goods. We can do that by pressing this button over here. We have a list of options related to the purchase order. Two new options have appeared for us: create the invoice and create credit memo. Let's click on create the invoice. We are taken to the invoice creation screen. Over here, most of the details for a supplier is copied over from the purchase order. Thanks to that, the number of errors when it comes to invoice processing is greatly reduced and accounts payable has much less work. In the supplier portal, submission of invoices can be greatly controlled by the buyer. There's a lot of business rules that can be configured in one way or another, allowing suppliers to do certain things or not. For example, I'm inputting here the invoice number, and the length of that invoice number can be configured through a business rule. Another example would be invoice date and ability to backdate the invoice. Take a look. I tried to state a different date than today, and as a supplier, I'm actually not able to do that because I'm getting an error. As we all know, very often invoice date is used to calculate the payment terms, 45 days to pay the invoice, starting from the invoice date of the document or sometimes a scan date. Having a proper control over the invoice date allows you to have a better cash flow. And this is just one of the examples where a business rule can be configured to your benefit. Another great functionality that I would like to show you is related to tax. Our solution supports fully all the tax regulations we have in India. That means that the electronic invoice will be entirely legal and will be following all the regulations that are required in India to have a proper invoice. Another functionality very often used when it comes to invoicing is supplying the attachments. I'm adding over here a delivery note, but it can be an Excel file with the specifications or any other additional attachment that supplier would like to add. After all of that is done, we can take a look at the line item. And all of the details that you can see here were actually originally created in SAP, sent over to the supplier as a purchase order to the portal where he could see it in his mobile app. He could send PO confirmation against it, advance ship notice using the same details, and he's submitting the invoice with exactly the same details as we had on the purchase order. After clicking on next button, supplier will be able to see the summary of the invoice that he's about to submit to his buyer. He can review these details, correct them if he needs to, and then he simply just clicks on the submit button. And this is triggering invoice to be sent to the SAP system where accounts payable will take a look at it. So let's go quickly to the SAP system and let's search for our invoice. I will just tap on the supplier invoices list and I will paste here the invoice number that I have just created. The invoice is in the draft status. Let's quickly take a look at it. We see that the details that supplier has submitted to us are available to accounts payable. We have a delivery note, which is our attachment. We see line item details related to our order, and they are actually copied over from the purchase order. We are able to add the tax code. Let me quickly add a tax code over here. And now nothing stops us from posting the invoice. And as accounts payable clerk, I'm gonna simply do just that. Invoice got successfully posted in the SAP system, which triggers the notifications to a supplier that his invoice is approved, and it also sends him a payment date. So let's take a look how this looks like to the supplier. So I'm going to quickly switch over to the mobile app. And I'm going to find the invoice. As you can see, the invoice is in approved status. Let me just quickly take a look at the web version of this invoice. There is a new tab after the invoice gets approved. You can see it here. And you can take a look. There's a planned payment date for a supplier. Thanks to this piece of information, supplier will know when he will receive money to his account, and he will not be calling accounts payable with question Where is my money? What is happening to my invoice? This concludes our demonstration. Thank you for your attention.
So just to summarize, we have seen both sides of the collaboration, buyer and supplier. The process starts from purchase order creation by buyer, which gets acknowledged by supplier. Before physical shipment of goods, supplier creates an advance shipping notification. Both order acknowledgement and ASN get seamlessly replicated in buyer's ERP solution as confirmation and inbound delivery to give full order and delivery visibility. Once buyer receives and accepts material in ERP system, supplier can create an electronic invoice just by flipping the PO with correct GST amount and proper validation for an example forthcoming e-invoicing mandate. The same invoice automatically comes in buyer system for the payment purpose. Once buyer takes a decision or initiate the payment process, supplier immediately gets full visibility of the payment status. Entire interaction can be done over any device, making things more easy, quick, and simple. Digital Supply Network is the logical extension of any SAP ERP or S/4HANA system. It is easy, simple, and brings real business benefits by bringing all the stakeholders on a single platform to communicate, coordinate, and manage their relationships. Let's now see how HP India as a supplier is leveraging the platform effectively. In this video, HP India e-commerce manager Manjunath Prabhakar shares how Ariba network has helped the company deliver over the past decade a best-in-class experience to this customer. Over to you, Pooja. Please run the video.
HP India is mainly focused to cater to our customers and being the leader in the print and the PC business. We support a broad spectrum of our customer base, mainly in the consumer business, in the commercial space, and also in the enterprise world. HP is operating out of 10 office locations in India. HP has been adopting to Ariba e-commerce platform since a decade, and it has been a worthwhile experience working with SAP Ariba. HP, being a global company, has both a mix of global and local customers. So specifically focusing on India, we operate with 15 multinational buyers who are part of our Ariba network. Along with Ariba implementation, we seamlessly have the order integration done for our enterprise and corporate customers. This is basically catering to our frictionless ordering experience for HP, and most importantly, a real-time order flow for our customers. In order to stay on to a sustainable and a stable e-procurement solution, which SAP Ariba has been, we are currently using Ariba for punch outs, purchase order integration, invoicing, and also for the financial claim handling. We are handling globally more than 5,000 plus e-orders. That has been the standard volumes as a supplier we see on our network. And we see there has been a gradual increase in the last couple of years as customers are doing seamless purchasing on Ariba as a platform, and that is really encouraging us to go forward. Being on SAP Ariba, this is a very much sustainable e-commerce solution which is helping us to keep our back office operations cost at bay, and this is effectively helping us to bring success stories to our customer in terms of real-time ordering experience and timely shipment and deliveries. The key focus is to see how we can increase our e-order penetration, improving to around 40 to 50%, and the expectation is by around 2020 we should be achieving 80%. The key value enabler for us being with SAP Ariba is transparency in terms of the cost, the billing, which is governed on a quarterly manner. It has been a wonderful experience working with SAP Ariba.